the eBooks for FE support site. And I have a series of questions for you to get feedback, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so just to remind you of what I'm referring to when I talk about the support site. So now on screen you should see what I'm looking at. I'll take it back to the home page. Okay, so Edward, we can have question number 1 in the list. So the first question is, how often do you visit the eBooks for FE support site? On average, would you say that you visit every week, or every couple of weeks, or maybe once or twice a month, or if it's something that you would never normally do? Now, because I can't see the interface while I'm looking at my screen, Edward, you might just have to give me a nod when all the answers are complete.
Yeah, I think that's most people. So we'll close that question down now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next question is, which tab would you say you visit most often? And by tab then, on my screen there's the librarian support tab, the teacher support tab, the subject areas tab that contains the various breakdowns, plus a spreadsheet, the about tab, eBooks for FE tab, and also the blog site tab as well. So on average, which one would you say that you visit the most often of these?
Okay, again, thanks, Andrew. I think that's most people having answered it.
Okay. So question number 3, and this one is a free text response, so you can type in your answers as you wish. So this question is, what kind of guidance or information are you most often looking for on the support site? Okay, the full list, titles, new titles. Okay, so very much focused around the titles list and including subscription end dates. Okay. Alrighty.
Okay, shall I minimise that now as well, Andrew?
Yeah, that seems to be the end of that one, yeah.
Okay.
So, the next question is, either just a yes or no response of this one. Do you promote the teacher support tab, which is this one here, to the teaching or curriculum staff in your organisation? Again, it's just to get a sense of which areas of the site here are used, and if they are, how much? Alrighty. That seems to be everybody. Okay. Interesting. So, moving on to the next question then. And this again is just a yes or no. Are you aware that the eBooks Fair Fee Support graphic on the homepage of the support site links to an extensive list of guides which are not included in the tabs? So what I'm referring to here is down here. This is an active link that leads you in turn to what is called the full list of guides, and as you can see, there's a fairly extensive list of links here, some of which are to other pages within the support site, but some of which are specific to this list. So again, I'm interested to know how obvious that graphic link is and how far it's used in terms of the contents here. Okay. Again, very interesting responses, because this again is something that I am keen to look at in terms of just how content is organized and what the awareness is in terms of how the site is constructed in terms of its navigation. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so the next question, which is question number 6 then. Again, yes or no. Do you make use of the promotional materials such as subject-specific posters and bookmarks? What I'm referring to here is within the Librarian Support tab. Down a bit, there is a promotional materials link. In here, there's posters and bookmarks, and within the posters, there's a series, both in PDF format and also in Word documents that you can edit for yourselves to add in things like organizational branding on a subject-specific level. So, for example, there's an economics A-level poster to advertise those kind of new books, one for English, and then below the A-levels and GSC ones, there are various subject-specific posters there to do with law, maths A-level, music A-level, philosophy, politics, etc., etc. So again, have you used any of these? Because if so, there are some subjects which are not covered in this list, so it's just to get a sense of if there is a demand for usage, whether it's worth us spending the time to create other posters across the full subject range. Okay, a bit more of a mix there. Great, thank you. I'm going to skip question 7 actually, Edward, because it's pretty much covered in that same question as previously about promotional posters. English and mathematics are included in those. So if you don't mind, let's skip number 7 and go on to number 8, which is a free text question. And that question is there anything that you think is specifically missing from the site that you would find useful, or alternatively, perhaps your teaching colleagues would find useful? So yes, the answer to that question there, the posters are editable. When you click on them, there's either a PDF version or a Word document version. So you can add in your own content, you can pick your own specific title, for example, on that subject, if the default title and cover image isn't one that's necessarily used by you. So yes, you can do anything you want in order to make it slightly more bespoke. Make the guidance area easy to find. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so some responses here about maybe just an overall lack of familiarity with the existing contents in order to answer that particular question. Scottish qualifications are included. Now, is that question in relation to the promotional posters? It is. Let me just have a look back at the posters area then. A-level, GCSE, GCSE. Okay, so they don't include Scottish qualifications, so that's a good point to note. Okay, I think, there's a question there about BTEC posters. So again, there are none specific for BTEC at the moment. What I'll do at the very end of this is just maybe check in finally about the posters issue then, before I hand over to Sam halfway. Okay, this is all very useful for us then. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is a ratings question from 1 to 10. So, how would you rate the quality of the content of the support site from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and 1 being the lowest? I realise in asking this question that perhaps the more unfamiliar you are with the contents, it may be slightly more tricky to answer, but for the content that you have used, just to get a sense of how well we're doing in terms of that. Okay, that's good to know. Hitting the high end there. Any more responses due? What's that, 10, 11, 12, 13? Okay. Alrighty, thank you. That will do for that one, I think now. So the next question is, again, out of 10, how would you rate the ease of finding the kind of information that you're looking for on the site? Again, from 1 to 10. So this question is really focusing in on the navigation and organizational aspects of the site, I would say. Okay, so slightly more in that middling range, around the middle there, 5s and 6. The low 7's pretty strong too. Okay, I think that will do for that one there. So the final question in this little series is, how would you rate the site structure and organization? So again, this is drilling just a little bit deeper down into the site as a whole and its usability from a library staff point of view. Okay, so still pretty fair there, but obviously a little light on the top levels, which indicates that there is work to be done. So that's good to know, because that's what I'll be focused on in the coming month to see what we can improve. Okay, so the final question then in support site feedback, and this is a free text question. If there was one single thing that you can think of that you think would be an improvement to the site, what would that be? And again, this could be in terms of content, or it could be in terms of structure, or it could be in terms of navigation. So really, for you, the burning issue that in terms of your use of it, what sticks out as being the one thing that you would really like to see either added or improved? It could also be more around the actual promotion of the contents, actually, if that's something that you feel, okay, so yeah, publicizing, and that's something that you feel is maybe missing. BTEC resources promoted, okay. Okay, so for those, I guess, of you that haven't used it, that also feeds back to the publicizing aspect as well, as noted in that first question. Okay, that's really interesting. Any further and final comments on the final question? Make content easier to find, okay. Quick links to key information from the home page rather than having to drill down through the menus. Yeah, okay. Interesting. And then somebody, some lucky person somewhere, has always managed to find exactly what they want. Oh, and add social media promotional materials, Instagram and Twitter. Okay. Alrighty. I think as a final question, if it's possible to put up that Q&A response box, Edward, I think that's maybe all that might be needed finally. Because I'd just like to revisit the question of those promotional posters, because there were questions about them in terms of whether BTEC was available or Scottish National qualifications were available. If there were a full range of promotional posters across English and Maths and various subject areas, can I just maybe double check with a yay or nay if those would be useful to you and whether it's something that you would like to see expanded on? I mean, bearing in mind, I guess, with promotional posters, there would be two ways to use them, perhaps, in terms of an electronic copy, in terms of sending them to students. But given that there's a full range, they're also something that you would be, I guess, posting perhaps in that subject area on the shelves, perhaps, to give people an extra sense of what else is available. Again, that's with the proviso that perhaps students are maybe not in the physical space as often as they maybe used to be. But okay, but so we do have some responses here for Scottish qualifications, likewise. Alrighty, so that gives me a good steer then in terms of what's missing and what is looked to. A link to the site, yes. So the site is, I think I can add this myself. Okay, and leave space for us to put a QR code link. Okay. Okay, so these do seem like something that would be really useful for people, actually, which is good to know. Because I didn't want to begin creating the missing ones until really finding out how strong the need was for what we have already. So that also gives me a steer on something to concentrate on in the next month. Okay. Alrighty, that's really helpful. Thank you very much. I think at this point, that's me ready to draw to a close, so I can stop sharing my screen at this point. If that option is possible.
Yeah, with switch layouts, Andrew, you can, if I switch back to the screen share layout, you'll be able to stop sharing now.
Okay.
But everybody's seeing the Q&A layout where we are now. So.
Oh, that's fine. Alrighty, okay, thank you very much, everybody. That was really helpful. So now we can move on to Sam, who's going to give you an update on vocational learning resources and trials.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much, Andrew. That's great. So my name is Sam Phoenix, and I'm the Service Coordinator for JISC's Vocational Learning Resources. And I just wanted to give you a quick update on a recent change to our VLRs. So you may remember that from mid-March to the end of July this year, we made all our vocational learning resources open and widely available during the first COVID-19 lockdown. Our hairdressing training resources are still open and available to everyone to use, but after the 31st of July, we reinstated a paid-for subscription service for our construction, digital and IT, education and childcare, and health and social care resources. I just wanted to update you to let you know that we've now brought in a 30-day free access trial option, which will give you full access to our services during this time period. So you can go through and try out our resources before making a decision on whether or not you'd like to take out a subscription. So our resources include a variety of guides, videos, infographics, and interactive multimedia content, such as scenarios and quizzes, that have been curriculum mapped to qualifications across the UK and to the latest national occupational standards. Each service provides ready-made resources that can be used for homework or for blended learning, and they're completely non-linear, so they put the learner in control of their own learning journey. They're accessible from a range of different devices, such as computers, tablets, and smartphones, and have been designed to be inclusive and accessible with alternative formats available, such as transcripts and text-to-speech functions. In order to sign up for a free trial, all you need to do is log into the License Subscription Manager, either clicking on the link you can see at the top of the screen there, which takes us directly to the Vocational Learning Resources Catalogue page, or you can type in and search for Vocational Learning Resources through the License Subscription Manager itself. And then you just need to scroll down and select the free trial from the options. Once the free trial has been activated, you will then be sent an email confirming the details of your trial and the links to the different sets of resources. After the 30-day trial has ended, you will need to take out a subscription if you would like to continue using them. So please remember that in order to access the resources during the free trial, you will already need to have a GIST Collections membership and an IDP such as Open Athens or Shibboleth already set up. And if you have any questions about the VLRs or need any support during your free trial, please do let either us know, we'll have our contact details at the final slide at the end of the webinar, or your account manager. So that was just a quick update on vocational learning resources. If you have any questions now, please do let me know.
If anybody'd like to use their microphones to ask questions, you're more than welcome now. You'll see the microphone button appear at the top of the screen. You just need to click it, and when it goes green, it will be activated. And you can ask a question verbally if you'd like to.
Not a problem if no one has any questions about the free trial now. I'll just quickly scroll through just so you can see. Feel free to contact us on this email address as well if you'd like to discuss the free trial option further or if you have any questions. But if no one has any questions at the moment, we'll move on to the final part of our webinar, which we're going to use now to reflect on the term that we've had so far. So we just have a series of questions that we'd like to ask you and would like to get your feedback on. So our first question is, and again, you feel free to use your mic or we have the Q&A section at the bottom here, is has the increased focus on blended learning affected the library's communications with teaching staff? And if so, how? So we've got a response from Tracy saying, yes, we're getting asked much more about digital resources than we did. Yes, much more communication about ebooks and digital resources and a much more targeted approach getting these to teachers and students from Adam. And Lisa says, yes, much more requests for digital resources and ebooks. Carol, yes, more questions like, is this available as an ebook?
I guess something I'm interested in relation to this question. So, for example, when Tracy and Adam say that they are being asked about ebooks, are these kind of queries that tend to come directly from single members of teaching staff, or is there kind of a more sort of communal group approach from teaching staff to the library, if that makes sense? I.e., is it sort of those teachers who just are normally quite good at using kind of e-resources or is there kind of a wider body among the teaching staff who have been discussing these needs and kind of come to the library as a as a cohort? To me, that would be quite an interesting thing to know. Okay, so mainly single members of staff as and when. Okay.
It's also interesting that Elizabeth says as well, promoting ebooks as a COVID safer option as much as possible, which is a different approach as well.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I imagine that, before the term started, I know that I was reading various things online about how to manage physical stock and, kind of how long physical books had to go into quarantine before somebody else could borrow them and all these kind of things. So, yeah, certainly ebooks are a way to avoid touching the stock, that's for sure.
Mm.
Okay.
I was going to say as well, Ruth also has a point here about we're promoting more ebooks, but we're not sure the information is reaching students. I wondered if anyone had any feedback on what they've done to try and make sure the information about digital resources and ebooks in particular is promoted to students. It says here, many teaching staff that used to visit the library now don't come over to the building. If anyone had any feedback or advice on that.
It's certainly good to see that there's been a positive response and uptake of ebooks and e-resources, though.
Mm.
I mean, it's maybe imaginable given the circumstances, but you never quite know with these things. It's good to get a sense that they are actually being used and appreciated.
Got some great feedback here. So Carol says, we've made posters advertising ebooks with QR codes and taken them to class teachers to put up in their rooms. And Lisa says that we have a Microsoft Teams page and all the teaching staff are a member of this, and we post regular details of services. Promoting to students through SharePoint sites and Teams from Claire. And Elizabeth says here, direct links to e-textbooks emailed to students. That's great.
I'd be interested to know from Hilary there in terms of the difficulties that Microsoft Teams is presenting. We are aware that more and more colleges now are shifting to Teams as a VLE option, and there are some aspects of Microsoft Teams that we ourselves are working to, to make sure that our products are compatible with Teams, but it's still a fairly new option overall. So I'd be curious to know more about that. If you could say a wee bit more. So, for example, I think we're doing, in terms of the virtual library, we are engaged in work to make that Teams compatible as far as I know, because at the moment I think I'm right in saying that I don't think it is. Communicating with specific cohorts, difficult to get an index of team names, okay.
Mm.
Cannot contact groups of students yet on Teams. Alrighty. So that's linked in with Hilary's comment. Okay.
Great. Shall we move on to the next question then?
Yeah.
Which is sort of connected to what we've just been discussing. It leads on nicely. So our next question is, how has the increased focus on blended learning affected the library's interactions with students? So we've already kind of discussed a little bit about, so I've just seen Tracy's comment here as well about digital resources and covering it in the induction, promoting it through social media, encouraging students to use them. when answering their queries and sending them links to teaching staff to get them to embed it in VLE courses. So has anyone else got any feedback on how this increased focus on blended learning has affected communication with students? Yeah, as Adam's worked here massively at social distancing and other precautions have pushed us towards digital and online promotion as a first choice. More queries? Yeah, of course, Carol. Yes, of course, footfall in libraries will be greatly reduced due to the restrictions. So yes, use of digital is incredibly important at the moment. Using Instagram to promote more resources, that's interesting. Again, mainly communicating students using Teams. Does that have an effect on staff relationships with students? Yes, of course. Fiona, would you be able to give a little bit more information on how you're using Instagram to promote resources as well? What kind of things you're doing on that platform? Because we've seen in the past a lot of colleges using things like Twitter, but it'd be interesting to see how the colleges are using different forms of social media. Yeah, and Elizabeth here, we've reduced book stock to increase digital study spaces with distancing. So adjusting to the needs of students.
I think I'm answering that comment there from Carol about queries from students about how they can access ebooks. I'm wondering whether that also includes queries about the actual usability of the ebook readers as well as just that initial access. Would that be correct? Or do they have existing guides on the usability of ebooks themselves that they have to follow to keep them straight on, like things like functionality, how to use the notes, how to highlight various things, etc.?
Just while we're waiting for Carol's response, I was just seeing from Adam about Instagram coming up and the webinar yesterday, and that's a great link to have a little look through as well and see how colleges are using Instagram to promote materials at the same time. Yes, but as Fiona says here, putting images of the resources on there, and there seems to be a lot of interest. It's still early days, but seems to be working. So that's a fantastic approach. Just got a couple more responses we're just waiting for. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Liz. So there's a recording that's going to be available for the webinar that Adam mentioned. If you click on the link that's just been provided there.
Okay, and thank you, Carol, for that extra bit of information there as well. Something I should say at this point, though, I guess, just in response to Carol's point, I mean, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, something I've been doing has been giving general overviews of ebook functionality to many groups of teaching staff, and sometimes library staff have been involved, and these are usually just like half-hour sessions, just going over things like how to make the best use of the ebook reader, how to use the bookmarks, how to use the bookshelf, highlighting notes, citations, etc., etc. So if you feel that a half hour just going through those bits of functionality would be helpful for you or teaching staff, feel free to get in touch via the content.feandskills email address, and I'm more than happy to set up a demonstration if you feel that would be something that would increase awareness or confidence in the use of the ebook reader itself. Okay, Linda's just typing a bit, after which we will move on to the next question. Lecturing staff would be useful. Okay. Alrighty, thank you very much. That's helpful. We will take those points away and work on those. Let's move on to the next question then, which is how are you keeping learners engaged with digital resources? I.e., how are you working to keep them motivated in terms of using digital rather than print, or given that there's now just more use of e-resources? In some ways, some of the previous replies will feed into this as well, but it was just in case there's any extra elements or barriers that you feel are presenting themselves that you've had to work to overcome. Okay, so targeting high usage groups. I guess the flip side to that question there, Hilary, is targeting the low usage groups, perhaps. I guess that's something that we're always interested in terms of usage, because we pay attention to the low users as much as we do to the high ones to see what we can do to help them out. Digital resource of the month used via the tutor bulletin. So for that kind of thing, Adam, when you say of the month, is that something that you or library staff pick out for particular attention? Is that something that's based on high usage, or something that you're promoting for a specific reason? I'd be curious to know how that's defined, actually. E-resource promotion weeks, different platforms. When dealing with information inquiries, making sure digital resources are included in the responses. Okay, so there's Adam's response then about resources, choosing resources that will cover a range of courses so that we can catch the attention of lots of students. Okay. Okay, and there's a point there from Tracy then in terms of almost a kind of a paradigm shift in a certain way in terms of paper copies, if there's any copy available. I'm not overly familiar with Adam's reference to Credo and Masolit. Maybe that's me. Is that something we need to know about Sam? Is that something that needs a wee bit of explanation? Great, thank you for the link there, Adam. Have a look at that after the session. Okay, just a final few comments coming in. Masalit, thank you. And then Hilary agrees with Tracy, but buys physical copies for learning support use. Okay. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the penultimate question. Only 2 more to go. So the penultimate question is, what is your organisation doing in terms of building digital capabilities, either for teaching staff and their delivery or for learners? And of course, again, here at JISC, we're interested in things like digital capability and digital facilities, given that it's very much a core of the future of FE and skills sector reports that have been published recently. Okay, so Candice, we use ClickView. The ebooks are linked into our Heritage Library system and appear at the top of a search, also included in reading lists. So Candice, when you say that they appear at the top of a search, does that mean that these search results are prioritized, i.e. ranked in terms of ebooks first? Is that what that means? Okay, that's interesting. And quite a clever piece of indexing as well. So, Kerry says, we have created a digital skills course in our VLE as part of the induction process to find their way around software and resources that learners can access. Okay. Carl says, staff are creating short videos of good practice. Sharing on Teams. And I mean, I guess that is one of the key advantages of working on a digital platform is that you can include videos that are always quite easy to watch from a learning point of view, something that people are used to. So Tracy says, teaching staff have had to do CPD in August to increase their skills to make the online teaching of a higher standard, which is part of the college's digital culture strategy that will be rolled out to business support staff this term or next, which in turn is built around JISC's digital capabilities. That's really good to know. Because here at JISC, as you can imagine, our primary communication channels are with library staff rather than teaching staff. So it's always really interesting to know what teaching staff are doing and how they're responding to to these challenges at the moment? Some final comments coming in here for this question. So Elizabeth says, student digital inductions are taking place to ensure skills at the start of term and to prepare them for remote yawning. Remote yawning? That can't be right. Remote learning. I'm sure nobody's yawning during a teaching session. Massive investment in hardware for students to borrow. Okay. Hardware at home, yes. So I guess addressing the challenges of potential digital poverty, access to laptops and tablets and what have you, which again is something that we're also aware of here at JISC in terms of e-resources. It's all very well having them, but if students don't have the hardware to access them, it tends to compound the potential issues. Okay. We will take just another couple of responses to this one so that we can move on to the final question as we approach 5.2.
And just as a point, as we've seen as well, so as I put in the group a little bit earlier on, we have as part of our digital learning resources in FE Teaching Toolkit, we do have a building digital capability section, which is mostly geared towards, it's information mostly for FE teaching practitioners, but might be helpful as well for library staff as well, about building digital literacy and digital capabilities for students. And the connection with student employability and how teaching staff can develop their own digital literacy, which might be of interest. So I've popped the link in the chat there as well. And Liz as well has mentioned that if you're developing presentations for live delivery online or to record for sharing on Teams, you might like the free training on making webinars, online teaching sessions and meetings, and the link that has been shared there, which is a great article to read and a great training webinar to look at as well.
Alrighty, great. Okay, so we are ready now for the final question of the webinar, which is, in terms of digital resources, what for you and your students has worked well, and then conversely, what digital resources do you feel that you may still be struggling with? Again, in terms of your point of view as library staff, in terms of either sort of promoting the resources or managing them, but also obviously in terms of the students' point of view, in terms of getting the best out of them. So Tracy says most of our issues are around the infrastructure preventing resources from working properly. So Tracy, by infrastructure, is that the college's IT infrastructure and connectivity perhaps? Okay, so there's Ruth then struggling on site with the new Wi-Fi, which is patchy and slow. Okay. BYOD, Ruth. Tell me what BYOD is. It's not bring your own digital, is it?
I think it's bring your own device, I believe.
Ah, I was so close. Because bring your own digital doesn't actually make sense, but that was all I had. Great. Cost of some titles can be an issue. So Claire, is that with reference to purchased ebook titles from ProQuest? Okay, Carol says, still some staff who don't engage, and also the perennial problem of some key texts not being available in ebook format or just prohibitively expensive. And also user access, of course, can be restrictive, yeah, okay. And also, again, from Tracy, in terms of Wi-Fi having to be upgraded, and various just glitchy things going on with Outlook as well. Okay. Okay, so, all right, Liz, no worries. Thank you for your input earlier on. Thank you. Okay, so a bit of a variety there, just in terms of having to deal with general IT issues, connectivity, Wi-Fi, and the challenges of just being able to afford digital resources as well on libraries' budgets. So we have a final couple of responses coming in, which we will make the final two. Tracy is typing, Ruth's typing. Okay, again, expense related to ebooks as well as an issue. And some core texts still not available as ebooks. Okay. Alrighty, Sam, I think if you agree, I think that should be us ready to round up for today.
Yes, I think it is. I just want to say thank you very much for everyone who has gotten involved and provided us with their insights and feedback. It's been much appreciated and it's been a very interesting discussion, so thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, everybody. This is the final webinar of the year, so do have as happy holidays as you can have given the tricky multi-tier, multi-bubble circumstances. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you, maybe, or hear you virtually at some point in 2021. Thank you for all your input. We will be taking this forward, especially in terms of the support site, in order to see what we can do to improve usability and accessibility and content in it. Okay. That will be us. We are ready to sign off. I think if Edward wants to make the final sign-off statement, Edward?
Yeah, I think you've done it. Thanks, Andrew. No, that's great. When you're ready, all you need to do is just close your tab or browser that you've got the session running in. If you're in the app, close down the app and that logs you out. So thanks a lot, take care, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.